and welcome back to the M2 Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Anthony. My co-host right here is Kyle Heath. This is the show where we cover gaming industry-related news. This week, we had a lot of big news. Nintendo Direct happened. So we're going to talk about the Switch 2, what we know about it, why it's expensive. We're going to dive into a little bit of Mario Kart World and pretty much everything surrounding the Switch. We're going to jump into Nvidia confirming some other features with the Nintendo Switch, and then we're going to have like a final basic talk about the Switch versus the Steam Deck, which is also like really well known and a lot of people have it. Yeah, and I feel like that's a fair comparison so far. But before we get into all things Switch, Kyle, how you been, dude? Like, what have you been up to? How's your week been?
Dude, I've been doing all right. I've been doing all right. Works. I'm back on the crazy week after having a more
Facts.
chill week last week. So,
I'm right there with you.
yeah, I've been going a mile a minute there. But outside of that, really the only games I've been playing. Played a little bit of Repo over the weekend, some more, and
yeah.
then around Monday, I had seen a bunch of my friends on my Steam friends list. Were playing a game called Schedule One. Never heard of this game. I decided to look it up, and apparently it was like a new. It's like the new kind of. I won't call it a meme game because it's actually pretty well made, but it's like the new
Yeah.
sort of like it game right now. I feel like, kind of indie game, and it's literally just you are a drug dealer and you are building up your empire in a little city. So it's kind of like
Oh,
selling
yeah.
drugs, making drugs. And it's so funny because like at the start of the game, like the developer like has a splash screen and he specifically talks about like don't do drugs. Like this is just like this is just a kind of game for fun. Like I don't encourage drug use kind of thing.
Of course.
But yeah, no, it's pretty good. It's so well made in the fact that it's I think it was one guy that did it over the course of a few years, and so like it's kind of like a passion project. I feel like and it really comes through in the game. Like the gameplay is like really fun. There's lots of like little kind of Easter eggs and side things, and you can essentially mix any sort of drug you make and make new types of strands and stuff. And
Oh,
there's
jeez.
like hundreds of different ones. It gets pretty crazy and pretty intense, but the whole system is like everything's done on your like iPhone or whatever, so you're like getting text to like do deals and stuff like that. And the system, the phone system's actually like pretty like minimalist, but it actually works pretty smoothly. And it's pretty impressive that just one person did this because it's a very very fun game, and everyone that I've talked to that played it is addicted to the game. So it's kind of
Nice.
it's a bit of irony, right? Like the game
Yeah.
you're selling drugs and you're addicted to the game. It's kind of funny, but yeah, no, it's really well made. And every time I've been looking at Steam charts, and I remember the first time I like decided to look into it, I went to Steam charts and I saw there was like I think 400,000 people on the game at once on Steam, which
Right.
is insane. And every day since it's been like the 300K kind of that mark. So I don't know, man. The guy has made an absolute killing off of this game, so it's always cool to see those solo dev stories that where the game just takes off
Of
and
course, yeah.
all of a sudden they're just successful. And I don't know, man. I'm excited to see where the game goes, and I mean, it's just one guy, so it's gonna be. I feel like we're not gonna get super fast updates, but we'll see. I don't know. Maybe he has stuff in the tank before he released, and maybe he can add some stuff soon. But it's the only thing. It's the only downside of these games when it's like one person. Is like getting new
Yeah.
content takes time.
Yeah, of
Understandably
course,
so.
because they have a
Um,
life.
yeah, exactly.
Work-life
Understandably, I
balance is
mean,
real.
yeah, I mean, you start making all that money. It's like you could just like if you did have a job, you could just like quit and just do this full time, and then
100%, yeah.
start working on games. So I'd be curious to see kind of the backstory. I think developer Tyler, I think was his name, if I'm not mistaken. So it'd be interesting to see kind of what he does and how he kind of reacts to this and goes forward. So a little indie dev to follow, but yeah, dude, really well made game. Gotta say, it's a lot of fun and it's a lot of like just kind of quirky stuff and just like toilet humor that's just fantastic. So
That's
yeah,
very
dude,
cool, man.
it's a lot of fun. But yeah, dude, been playing a lot of that pretty much any second I'm not working or working out or kind of just trying to stay afloat, while I'm
Nice,
playing
yeah.
that. So
I'm about the same way as you, man. Work's
um,
been totally kicking my butt, and
yeah,
it's always nice to just like have a moment where we can load up a game and just get our mind off of it for a while.
exactly.
So, yeah, my game of choice recently is obviously Marvel Rivals, but I got on Halo 2 for the first time in a long time.
There you go. Oh, not that
Yeah,
cart,
playing that
baby.
again.
That cart.
That's really what I was doing. I was playing cart, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, I could stream, but then I was like, nah. I haven't really streamed in the new year once. I'm
Yeah.
kind of waiting until I move. I'll have the
Okay.
better internet. I'll have a new setup. There are things that I like really want to change with what I got going on here to make it a more working space because I also want to start doing a little bit more working from home where I can. So if
Okay.
I can make my own
Mm,
space, I'm gonna kind of wait for then. I'll have an internet upgrade. It's like more incentive to kind of like get in a comfortable state of mind.
yeah.
Just it's been awfully busy, man. It's like
Yeah.
personal life are taken up all the time in the world. It's so crazy. Work's been
Yeah.
insane. And I'm just like, bro, can I just like get on this game for a while?
Yeah.
I went to bed pretty early and last night and that felt pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I fell
There you
asleep relatively early, but then I woke up and I was awake for a while, but I got more sleep than I usually do.
go. Yeah.
Just
All right, man.
yeah.
I don't know, dude. Like, you personally feel like you had a lot going on the past couple of years, so hopefully you get that. So hopefully you get the season here coming up where you can just relax. But
I
yeah,
get to
we'll see.
relax. My relaxation will start May 7th, May 6th or 7th.
There you go.
And that's because we have the Halo 2 LAN coming up. That I'm pretty much like the sole person organizing.
Which is
So
insane. So,
yeah,
that's
so
another thing.
a lot of people coming into town and trying to keep that all together and making sure everybody's on the same page. Been kind of a challenge, but I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I don't know if I will have it in me to do it another year, especially like by myself. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just have so much stuff going on, man. It's like, dude, in like 2 weeks, I'm gonna be in freaking Europe. We just got tickets.
Dude,
Gonna be in
that's
England.
yeah, that's insane. You're gonna be in Europe and then you're doing the land. You got a lot going
Yeah,
on, man.
and I'm
Right.
moving in like 6, 7 days. So it's
Oh, Mike.
here's the thing,
Uh,
dude. I've been I'm very type A, so if as long as I keep everything organized and I know what's going on, I'm
yeah,
okay. But the moment I don't stay organized, like within my realm of organization, like as long as I feel like I'm in control, I'm okay. But if something goes out of whack, like things can go out of whack, but if I don't pivot, dude, it's gonna get bad.
yeah,
So time to focus up is what I'm saying.
yeah. I've heard of that term type A. I'll be honest. What does that mean?
Yeah,
I don't know what that like because I've heard
I
it.
will. Okay, we are now an educational podcast, not just a news site.
I
Let
just
me.
before we start, I just have to know that.
No, I got you. Type A personality. I think I told you about this once before when we're off the pod, and I told you I was like super high functioning, high intense, high stress, and I could manage all that stuff. And then lockdown happened, and we
Yeah,
didn't have as much work, and then it picked back up after lockdown,
yeah.
and I ended up losing eyesight because of my stress was too high.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. So, type A personality, a common colloquially or whatever it's called. This is how you know it's a rough podcast when you can't pronounce words. Is characterized by traits like competitiveness, ambition, and sense of urgency, often leading to high achievement, but also potentially increased stress and health risks. So, their key traits: competitiveness, ambition and drive, urgency and impatience, workaholism, stress and anxiety. They can actually like have can have and withstand high levels of stress and anxiety. Perfectionism, multitasking, time consciousness, aggression and hostility. Those are all like the key traits, but then they have potential downsides, increased stress and burnout, because that happened to me once before. There's health risks. Like I told you, I was literally losing my eyesight because of this. Relationship difficulties because you can't really manage your work life balance sometimes. And
Yeah.
then potential upsides, you get high achievement, strong work ethic, leadership potential, and then goal oriented. Now, if you do type B, which I'm pretty sure is just a way more casual, yeah, easygoing, relaxed, and highly flexible. Way more laid back. Things aren't as like intense, basically. The
Dang.
opposite of type A.
I just learned
That's
I'm.
essentially what it means. You're
Oh, I
like
just.
way more
Yeah.
flexible, way less stress, relaxed attitude. These are the people that are just like they get a tax bill come in and they're just like, "Ah, I'll get to it, whatever, man." But type A is just like, I have to take care of this right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
I think I'm learning I might be a type B. So I don't know if it's a bad thing,
You
but
are probably more type B. It actually cracked me up. Somebody at work, I told them about like I tried to really pull myself back from the Type A intensity that I used to have because I'm
Yeah.
not as bad as I used to be. But I remember I was talking to a coworker and he was like, "Oh man, really? I thought you were way more like Type B, like surfer, like just go with the flow, kind of on the beach." And I was like, "Dude, that took years of like learning myself."
Yeah.
But I do go into moments where all of a sudden, you've seen it. I'll just randomly go into an obsession, and then all of a sudden I'll drop like a spreadsheet that has way too much information and data on it.
Yep. That's so true.
Yeah, it's just like, bro, do you want to know everything there is to know about retro gaming for the original Xbox? Because I have
Yeah.
that all categorized, organized, all the framework, like everything's done.
Yeah.
It's just
It's true.
it's just how I am, man. It's
True.
just how I am.
It's true, man. It makes sense. It's starting to make sense now. See, knowing our personality types, you know.
Mhm. I'm more intense. You're a little bit more laid back. I think we balance.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Hopefully. Well,
Hmm.
there's some. I don't know. There's something announced this week, Mike. I don't know if you heard about it.
Well, there's only one announcement we've been yapping about since like the beginning of the year. Well, honestly, since like last year, because we thought it was going to be
Just waiting for
rumored
it.
about. Yeah, and without
waiting.
further ado, it is just the Switch 2. And
Oh, yeah.
I suggested to Kyle here for everybody listening that we start off with why probably the most controversial thing is the price and the games. So
Yeah.
I say we get into that and then we talk
Yeah.
about why everything else is great.
Yeah, and I like your approach because I think a lot of people have probably seen the presentation or seen the highlights, right? At least,
Yes.
like we'll certainly go through our thoughts on it, and like we'll skim through the
Agreed.
presentation, talk about what we liked
Yeah.
and didn't like. But I think we should talk about get into the nitty gritty, the pricing, because it was it certainly caused quite the reaction. I feel like across gamers alike. So, anyways, this is coming from IGN. The article is Rebecca Valentine over at IGN. So here's why Nintendo Switch 2, Mario Kart World, and everything around them is so expensive. Nintendo is charging this price because they feel they can. So, article starts off, dang, $80 for Mario Kart World, huh? Today's Nintendo Direct and subsequent information dump answered many, many burning questions we've been asking about Nintendo Switch, such as launch lineup and release date. Among those were the question of price, not only for the system itself, but also for the games and accessories we're going to need alongside it. And it's a good thing that the rest of the Direct was so enjoyable, because Nintendo needed to do some work to justify some of these prices. So we'll break down the prices of each of the console and the accessories that are going to be available on launch. So the Switch 2 itself is $449.99, $450. I had predicted I was thinking like a 500. I know that was probably higher for some people. But that was
yours wasn't yours lower than what mine was?
It might. I think originally, it might have been.
Yeah, I think
Because I think I
you
may
put
have
it
took
at the
the
500 mark, and
Yeah,
I think it said 600.
yeah. Which I mean, I think either one would have made sense. It made
Yeah.
sense, So I don't know. Anyways, it's 450, so a little bit lower than we were expecting. The Nintendo Switch 2 with the Mario Kart World bundle is 500. So you get Mario Kart World with your Switch 2 for $500. That is a limited time bundle, which I don't know. We'll probably talk about at some point. Very limited bundle. Mario Kart World itself, ladies and gentlemen, we have an $80 video game on our hands. $80. We have arrived. For GTA. What'd I say?
Yeah, well, I saw a meme that also showed it's just like Rockstar looking at everybody upset over the $80 Mario Kart World game, knowing that they're about to drop GTA 6 at 100.
Yeah, that's a good meme. Yeah, that could happen. So Mario Kart itself is 80. Donkey Kong Bonanza launching at 70. The Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller is launching at 80. The Nintendo Switch 2 camera, which we'll talk about the game chat and all that. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's actually really cool, and I was kind of surprised with the quality. I thought the quality, it looks like a crap camera, but it looks like it can do 720p.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see the actual live test. We get like a
Agreed.
live test. That's when we'll know.
Agreed.
But yeah, they did make it look all nice for the presentations. I don't know how much they glammed up for it.
Selling dreams, man.
So Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller $80, Nintendo Switch 2 camera is $50, the Joy-Con 2 controller pair is going to be $90, charging grip is going to be $35, Joy-Con 2 strap, the little strap that'll hook on the ends, you can put it on your wrist, it's going to be $13. The wheel pair, Joy-Con to wheel pair, is going to be $20. The Nintendo Switch 2 dock set is going to be $110. Nintendo Switch 2 carrying case and screen protector is $35. The all-in-one carrying case, $80. And then the AC adapter for the Switch 2 is going to be $30. That's a lot to dish out to play some Nintendo games, even assuming most people are just going for the console, a game or two, and maybe a spare controller. Most notable in that list of prices is what's going on with the console itself. $450 isn't far off from what a bunch of analysts told Rebecca Valentine the system was likely to cost when asked earlier this year. They predicted $400, but a few said it could likely go higher depending on various economic and technological factors. And but even more interesting is Mario Kart World. It's $80. That makes it the most expensive we've ever seen a AAA game cost without belonging to some sort of deluxe edition. And it's certainly the highest Nintendo's ever gone. You could buy it in a bundle with a system that gets $30 taken off the game price, but the $80 price tag has a lot of Nintendo fans concerned at the rapidly rising prices of games and what this may mean for the future. Didn't we just see games start going from 60 to 70 a few years ago? That hurt bad enough without bumping it even higher so soon after. So what's happening here? Why are the Nintendo Switch 2 and Mario Kart World priced the way that they are? We will see more game price hikes in the future. Are we going to see more? As usual, as Rebecca asked experts, analysts to explain it to her, and here's what they said. So why $450? Even though most of the analysts Rebecca spoke to were the same folks who predicted the $400 price point back in January, no one seemed surprised at the $50 extra on the end of the announcement today. Collectively, the 6 analysts that she spoke to offered various reasons for the higher than expected price, largely agreeing on a fairly simple confluence of multiple factors: tariffs, manufacturing cost, and competition. Here comes the names. Joust van Durnen. So I'm going to say that. The NYU star professor and author of Super Juiced playlist calls the $450 pricing a strategic balancing act on Nintendo's part that reflects a mixture of increased manufacturing costs as well as ongoing uncertainty as to whether or not, and if so, what tariffs the Trump administration in the United States is going to levy on electronics. Nintendo appears to be building in a buffer against the potential trade barriers while ensuring they maintain their traditional positive margin on hardware. Piers Harding Rolls of Ampere Analysis wasn't surprised by the $450 price and said it made sense given the Switch OLED's $350 price tag. But he also shared an interesting speculation in his response related to Van Durnen's point about tariffs, relating to why Nintendo didn't announce the price at the Nintendo Direct itself today. My view is that they probably had a range of pricing in the US market in play up until the last minute due to the uncertainty in import tariffs. Dr. Serkin Toto, CEO of Canton Games, threw in another factor: Sony. Nintendo probably factored in possible tariffs, the current inflationary climate in the world, and the $700 Sony dared to charge for the PlayStation 5 Pro last year. James McWhirter, analyst at Omdia, also mentioned the PS5 Pro as well as the Xbox Series X, both of which he pointed out sold better than their cheaper alternatives. But he also pointed out an interesting discrepancy in how the Switch 2 is being sold in Japan versus the United States. In Japan, it's releasing a Japanese language system for around $333 US, while its multi-language system runs about $466 US. Why? McWhirter has a fascinating explanation as to the existence of a region-locked system, its pricing, and the discrepancy between it and pricing in the system in the US. Japan is a key market for Nintendo. Our console hardware data reveals that Japan accounts for a quarter of the Nintendo Switch install base in 2024, compared was just 2% for Xbox Series X and S and 9% for PS5. If Switch 2 pricing in Japanese yen was aligned to the US dollar price, it would dramatically weaken Nintendo's position in Japan, representing a doubling in the list price over the classic LCD Nintendo Switch model. Yet if Nintendo continued to rely on region-specific pricing and is significantly cheaper in USD terms, they would face an issue with gray imports to other territories. Nintendo's answer is to navigate the situation with two models. they are offering a substantially cheaper but price competitive 500,000 yen Nintendo Switch 2 model that only includes Japanese language support. Meanwhile, an international language model at 70,000 yen is being positioned to protect the Japanese market from gray imports from other territories. Smart, considering there are no other major console markets with a not insignificant number of people proficient in the Japanese language. Stop there for a second. Yeah, I mean, then I think that all kind of makes sense. Kind of what they're
It
going
makes
for,
sense.
Nintendo strategy.
It makes sense from a strategy from like a businessing perspective, a business perspective. The brief section about the tariffs and stuff. So I work in an industry that we sell, I don't sell, but we design products that are basically ship back and forth through Mexico and Canada all the time. They're in different states. A lot of the parts, especially the circuit boards, come from China and Taiwan and Japan. Actually, specifically Japan. There's a holy crap load like Mitsubishi, Samsung. They all have products that are in my industry, and they've all increased their prices already. So they increased them months ago, like back in February. They're like, yeah, the rumor of tariffs incentivized them to cover their bases, so they raised their prices. Now we just recently had like what do they call it? Liberation Day. I don't know too much about the politics stuff anymore. I try to stay out of it, but they raised rates on pretty much everybody, and tariffs on pretty much everybody. So it's like it's partially cost to consumer increase, but also a incentive and excuse for businesses to raise prices to get more profit. It's like when you talk about inflation, it kind of self-manifestation because the companies are going to be like, oh, this is going to be acceptable excuse to raise the price.
Yeah,
And all of a sudden,
exactly. Yeah.
the price of eggs triple because it's all about profiteering in a way.
Yeah.
This little section about incentivizing the Japanese market to stick around, and honestly, you can buy like certain products through Japan has something very similar to like an eBay,
Yeah.
and I was looking on there to find Japanese style S type original Xbox controllers, and they're pretty good. They're smaller than the normal ones, but because Xbox wasn't very popular over there, you get a lot of them that are still sealed. Because the way they do Japanese like video game stores or just electronic stores, they just have boxes everywhere
Yeah.
of like all this old stuff, and everybody's a retailer or whatever, and you can buy that online for cheap, and then they'll ship it over. You pay like all the stuff for it in customs, but you come out ahead because there's none of that available here. Now,
Right. Yeah.
sometimes you have to deal with the fact that it's all Japanese, but it's like if you're buying a controller or hardware, it's not that big of a deal. If you buy a Switch software, you better know Japanese because
Yeah.
otherwise it ain't working.
Yeah.
So I think this is pretty interesting. What do you think, Al?
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I agree to your point too. It kind of gives, it definitely does give businesses, especially Nintendo, an excuse to be like, yeah, let's charge a little more because the tariffs in quotes. So I mean, I certainly agree with that incentive. I think but there's certainly not to say that the tariffs wouldn't change things in some way, but yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's kind of the right place, right time, right moment. It just so happens that Nintendo seems to be releasing this console like when all this is happening, which works in their favor. So
exactly,
I certainly agree with that sentiment. I mean, and seeing the kind of the Japanese position, I mean, yeah, I mean that's a huge part of their market, and obviously they want to maintain as much of that as they can. So I think it makes sense from a business standpoint there to try and incentivize Japanese sales in some way. And if you can somehow make it cheaper with just a Japanese model, why not?
Exactly.
So I think it makes sense. But we continue on. So the next section is about Mario Kart World at a premium. So that covers the console itself. So why has Nintendo hiked the price of Mario Kart World into the stratosphere at $80? Whenever Rebecca asked the analyst she spoke to, she assumed it was related to tariff concerns. Perhaps Nintendo was worried about potential tariffs, but also didn't want to raise the price of the console too high, so a more expensive flagship game was their solution to offset costs. Well, it's partial. The experts largely concluded that tariffs may have played a role, with Matt Piscatella, analyst at Circana, suggesting that the higher game pricing was a bit of a future-proofing on Nintendo's part. While pricing for a product can always be lowered over time, it's extremely difficult and painful to raise pricing on a product once it has been announced or released. This is purely my own speculation, but this pricing is most easily explained by trying to be conservative given the current chaotic market conditions. But the experts also told Rebecca that there was more to it than that. McWhorter told Rebecca that this was Nintendo taking advantage of a critical moment of change in the games industry to test the waters on what the market will tolerate as far as game pricing goes. And it's using its most successful game series ever to that trial run. Because Nintendo knows if any game can succeed at this price, it's Mario Kart. If it doesn't work out, it can always drop the price, either directly or indirectly through methods like Nintendo Switch Online subscriptions. Yeah, they can certainly levy that, leverage that subscription to release a cheaper version in a sense.
That's very true.
So,
you want me to give you a break? I can start reading.
Yeah, you can. This is a long one.
Yeah, I know. I can tell. I started scrolling down. I'm like, oh, my man's gonna get tired.
Yeah.
So let's switch it up. Continuing on to the next section, has a Nintendo Direct Nintendo Switch 2 console slideshow. That's basically where they were really diving in to the, what's it called?
Specs, the specifics.
Yes, specs. Yeah, the details. Okay, so Van Drunen said something similar, adding, the timing aligns with the broader industry's gradual price increase of premium content. As we've seen the other publishers moving to $70 base games, Nintendo may be leapfrogging this intermediate step, calculating that the massive built-in audience for Mario Kart will tolerate a higher price point for what appears to be a significant expanded experience compared to previous entries. Mick Ryder also pointed out that not only could this higher cost for Mario Kart World be mitigating things like tariffs or manufacturing costs, it also could be helping balance out other invisible costs. Let me zoom in a little bit. I'm battling allergies too. So there's those pesky manufacturing costs for one, with McWhorter noting that the 3D NAND flash drive or flash memory from supplier Micronix experts suspect Nintendo is using in Switch 2 game cards is pricey. But there's also the cost of migrating so many first-party titles to Nintendo Switch 2, and the slow build the console will see in its first 3 years when its blockbuster exclusives are reaching a much smaller audience than was available on the Nintendo Switch. Now, I don't know about you, Kyle, but this little section here, why were they not prepared for this? The Nintendo Switch has been out for a long time, and they've been working on the Switch 2 this entire time.
Good point.
I think that's a whole lot of yapology.
I don't know if I agree with this take.
Yeah, it's an interesting take. All right, so other experts brought up other factors. Hardening Rolls made a compelling point about Nintendo otherwise not aggressively pursuing in-game monetization and needing to account for inflation somehow. I agree with that, and also, I don't know if they've mentioned it just quite yet, but that online subscription, Nintendo Online, is like $3 a month.
Yeah,
when
it was
you
really cheap
compare
at one
that,
point. I mean, I'm assuming they've kept the same price, but
I'm pretty sure it's good, and you get what you pay for. It's nice. And he added, Nintendo has a bit of a history of pricing games higher than other platforms when coming to a market later than other platforms. In this case, PS5 and Xbox Series. I remember back in the day, N64 titles being more than PS1 titles, for example. Some of that is related to cost of goods, but Nintendo also likes to follow its own approach and price based on its own appreciation of value. Yeah, okay. Rise Elliott, games analysis at Alina Analytics. Is that I can never say this
I was
news
just
outlets.
Alinea.
Uh,
Alinea. I don't know.
Alinea, I trust you.
Alinea. That's what I go with.
Analytics. We've covered Rise Elliott multiple times too. Called out the discrepancy in physical and digital pricing, which is still just a rumor in the US, but has been confirmed for the UK and other territories. He suggests that this would be a clear move from Nintendo to push consumers towards digital games, especially when paired with the virtual game card announced last week. I don't know how I feel about virtual games. Just give me the cartridge, my man. Nintendo is charging this price because they feel they can and that people will pay. So it looks like Rise went ahead and said, this is the excerpt from his article on the website. So PlayStation and Xbox have already pushed their platforms to begin digital first, driven by strategies like multi-game subscriptions, digital-only consoles, free-to-play, Rise, and platform holders pushing consumers to digital versions via perks. like extra cosmetics and the ability to preload a game so it's instantly ready to play at launch. I mean, yeah, those are convenient. So PlayStation and especially Xbox are very digital first, but Nintendo is different, more 50-50. In the last 9 months in 2024, 51% of the Switch software sales were digital. I didn't know that.
Wow.
I always thought everybody bought physical copies for the Switch.
Not
That's
as much, dude.
crazy.
Much.
That's crazy. Okay, so the number was even lower in the holiday period, 43.4% digital for calendar Q4. As always, for consumers, a unique value proposition of physical games is the pre-owned and rental markets. But Nintendo's reliance on physical impacts its bottom line, hence the nudging. Nintendo does not gain revenue from physical renting and resales. After all, a copy of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe could be sold on the reseller market 100 times or rented 100 times. But Nintendo would only capture revenues from the first sale. A digital only market means more revenue and price control for Nintendo. I mean, yeah, makes sense. Finally, asked, uh, who is this? Sorry, who wrote?
Rebecca.
Rebecca. Thank you. So, hold on. Let's see. I accidentally lost. Finally, I asked, am I at the right spot? I am.
Yeah.
So finally, I asked this question of Toto, who referred to the jump from $60 games to an $80 Mario Kart World as quite bold. His explanation was short and sweet. Tariffs could play a role, but I think it is much simpler. Nintendo is charging this price because they feel they can and what people will pay. I agree with that.
It's true.
100%.
So base.
I agree
Such
with
a
that.
base take. It's true, dude.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to remind you, I know I've said it multiple times, but I'm going to say it again on the podcast. It makes more sense to buy physical copies for the Switch because they are inherently collector's items.
Yeah.
Not only do they have a limited production cycle, but it's just you don't need to be always online to play you need to be online to play the digital games sometimes, especially on Xbox and Nintendo, or not Nintendo, Xbox and PlayStation. But if you have the physical cartridge for a Nintendo Switch game, just plug it in. Who needs online? Play
Dude,
locally. You're
It's
fine.
one of the few things too that is a cartridge still. If you really think about it.
Yeah.
Disc or
It's
digital.
honestly amazing how much stuff they fit on those cartridges for the original Switch. It's
Yeah.
insane.
True.
Alrighty. So who is buying? Everyone I spoke to, Rebecca, everyone I spoke to agreed that even though the Nintendo Switch 2 and Mario Kart World pricing is a bit of a shock, it's not going to affect sales of the console, at least not at first. So this is a quote from Pescatella. Based on what we're seeing across the market, sales to higher income or more affluent households likely won't be impacted by this pricing. And of course, we have the price insensitive super enthusiasts that will do and pay whatever it takes to acquire the Switch 2 at launch. Therefore, because of the limited quantities that will be available during the launch year, I do not anticipate this pricing to hinder year one sales volumes. That's very true. The true test will come in year two as supply is likely to become more readily available and the addressable market will be forced to widen. So we'll have to see what happens over the next 9 to 12 months. Werter's response was similar, saying that Omdia's current forecast has the Nintendo Switch 2 being outpaced in sales by the original Switch by 6 million units by the end of 2028. Interesting. So going on, even without considering potential tariff-related instability on hardware pricing, Nvidia's console forecast indicates that the list price of console hardware is no longer declining at the same rate it once did, even after adjusting for inflation. See the figure above. So what is this figure above? ASP. So it's the real average selling price of PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 by calendar year of the console cycle.
It's actually kind of cool, yeah. So you see it as it goes. It's like
yeah,
starts at 100, kind of slows down, but PS5 ended up outpacing the PS4 when it was in its year 4, respective year 4s. So it's kind of cool to see.
Only PS4 Slim brings the list price reduction, so they have to have a direct competitive option that's actually better than the previous gen. Makes sense.
Yeah.
They'll just never make one that's better. That's what that means.
They stink.
So, after 4 calendar years on the market, the list price of a PlayStation 5 had only fallen by 12% compared to the 21% for PlayStation 4. this could present a challenge for Nintendo if it hopes to hit a competitive $200 entry price point with a light style revision at the same point of its cycle in 2027. Van Drunen largely agreed as well, adding that the rising prices of other consumer electronics will likely serve to make the transition less jarring for consumers than it would be otherwise. And he goes on to say, with the PlayStation 5 Pro at $700 and premium gaming handhelds at $550 range, Nintendo's pricing looks relatively reasonable by comparison. Van Drunen projected 12 to 15 million Nintendo Switch 2 units sold within the first 12 months on the market, citing backwards compatibility as a significant factor that would drive adaptation. Yeah, that right there is going to be huge. What console was it that came out that didn't have backwards compatibility and it like almost flopped? I swear there was
I
one.
mean,
I
I
think
don't
it
know,
was one of the
dude.
Xboxes.
I mean, Xbox One, I'm pretty sure didn't. That was, when that came out,
Yeah,
and then eventually they introduced backwards compatibility via like
way late.
digital kind of
Yeah,
stuff, and it was late, and it wasn't
yeah,
direct like it
and it
wasn't
didn't have
immediate like you
everything.
could put the 360 game in your console and play it.
Yep,
So yeah, that I think Xbox One suffered because they didn't have 360 backwards
I
compatibility at
think
launch.
that's yeah. You can't be doing
Yeah,
that. You got to have backwards compatibility now. Um, Such a shame, but I think I don't know, man. They did mention a couple of times just like the people that are going to be buying the Nintendo Switch 2 are going to be affluent or privileged families or individuals that want to collect them, play them, and just own it. And yeah, they're not really impacted by the whole inflation stuff, but they will be impacted. Everybody else will be impacted by this. So you're going to look at like $500 Switch to, yeah, it's backwards compatibility, but then you got to pay even more for games. You got to pay more for all the accessories for these Joy-Cons. The Joy-Cons were like surprisingly expensive. Like the Switch Pro controllers, I would more prefer, and
yeah,
they're like reasonably priced
yeah.
in comparison to other manufacturers. But the Joy-Cons are just kind of nuts. Now there's a good reason for that. They have a lot of cool features, but yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, this stuff's definitely expensive. There's plenty of factors that could play in, but I agree with the sentiment that Nintendo is doing this because they know they can, and they have the
100%,
power
yeah.
to do that with their track record. So
Yes.
that's a theory I'm gonna be backing. Is that like mostly it's because Nintendo knows they can do it, and then all this other stuff is just kind of ancillary and helps their case. But that's the real reason I think. So,
Yeah.
I mean, hey,
I'm mm,
it kind of just is what it is. I mean, we can go on and talk about these prices, Mike. We could at least
yeah.
like show off some of this stuff and just kind of like
Well,
just kind of do a quick rundown of this little direct here. What you
yeah, I
think,
think
man?
I think that's worth it. I just skimmed the last bit of this article, and there's really not much more into it. It
Yeah,
just basically talks about a little bit of a comparison with the PS5 games and stuff. And like, oh yeah, the prices for the other competitors are absolutely insane. Like the PlayStation 5 Pro is $700, and the games are like $70. Like, what's going on? It's not
yeah,
that bad, but it's like I think Nintendo's seeing what other gamers are trying to spend on the PS5 and
yeah,
those super nice Xboxes, and they're like, ain't for me.
yeah.
Anyways, let's get into the actual direct, like you were saying.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Yeah, certainly, I do agree that Sony did definitely, indirectly help Nintendo. So
Oh,
they're
100%, yeah.
they're indirectly helping them with the pricing. So yeah, dude. I mean, look. So I'm just gonna show off some of the direct visuals while we kind of go
They look,
through. And
to
I
be
mean, hey,
honest, the visuals look amazing.
yeah. I mean, you start off with Mario Kart World. Like you start off with open world Mario Kart is what I've been seeing this being described as. And that's certainly what we see from the trailer. Um, I mean, hey, dude, a giant Mario Kart game, one that's like has an open world aspect to it. It's kind of crazy.
I
Kind
I've
of
seen
crazy.
some like footage too of the open world, and it reminded me of just skating around in like Tony Hawk,
Yeah.
grinding up on walls, jumping side to side. It's just fun. Get to play as a cow doing backflips on a
Okay.
motorbike.
Oh, the bullet. Yeah, seeing all the different outfits, cars, or the carts, I should say. Um, yeah, no, it was cool to see that. Kind of the initial trailer had some of the Switch designers, the game designers come out and talk more about the
Yeah,
game and
that's
kind of what's
yeah.
involved with it. So
I always enjoyed that with the Nintendo Directs. They always bring out like the actual people that are designing and the studio heads and their vision of what they're trying to do. It's very cool.
yeah. Oh man, just seeing all those players on one
Oh yeah.
track is pretty crazy. Um, but yeah, it's just a little bit of a world, kind of a similar setup to when you pick your tours and stuff. Give you a set number of tracks, kind of run through them.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
like
interesting.
racing from one side of the map to the other, and they all tie together. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Cruising USA if you ever played that growing up. The old arcade game, you could play the different like you could race in different cities, and the cities would go from like left to right or like east to west or whatever.
Huh.
Very fun game.
Yeah. Interesting. But yeah, and as we know, Mike, all modern game has to have a photo mode. So you already
Of
know
course,
it's gonna have a photo mode. They
always.
show that off. There's gonna be a specific direct on April 17th,
Mhm.
just
2 weeks ago,
exclusively for
or 2
this
weeks
to
from now.
talk more about the game. So another 9 a.m. Eastern presentation. So for those that watch this
Better wake
live,
up.
9 a.m. Yeah, no, it was cool to see that. And then obviously, so after the Mario Kart stuff, it's like, all right, let's talk about the console some. They show off. There's a C button on the controller on the Joy-Con. I'm like, what is that? The C button is a chat button, and then that's when they get
Very
into
cool.
the game chat presentation, essentially showing off. It's so funny because like I was watching this, I was in the office, kind of just had this on my phone propped up while I was working, and I just would glance over and I looked at the layout. And I'm like, is
Discord?
Discord coming to Switch? Like,
Yeah,
that's my
I thought
immediate
the
reaction.
same
Was like, is
exact thing,
Discord?
dude.
Because
It looks just like it.
everyone's made that comparison because it does look just like it. But no, it's Nintendo's proprietary game chat, and it's their way of kind of making chatting a little bit easier between games. And I'll be interested to see, because what's interesting about the Switch 2 is it has an onboard microphone. And apparently it's supposed to be a noise cancellation, fancy, like they have active noise cancellation on it. It's only supposed to pick up voice.
We'll
I'll be
see.
curious to see how good that works, because like they're showing someone talking into the console mic and they are across the room and apparently other people can
Yeah.
hear them. I'm like, okay. So I'll be curious to see how well that actually works, because that's bold. I think a bold
It's
claim.
incredibly
So
bold.
we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you can do that now. Like, I have RTX voice and stuff like this, and that could work. Speaking of Nvidia and with RTX, this is one of the few gaming consoles that will have an Nvidia graphics card in it.
Yeah.
So maybe they're utilizing that technology of AI in the background.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure they are, right? I mean, especially with Nvidia, it's like they're probably using RTX voice to some extent, which is great. I mean, it's improved, I think, since releasing a
way,
beta.
yeah.
So, yeah, I gotta see these presentations. Gotta see how good they are. You see the videos too. It's like they showed the little videos. At least with the presentation, videos look like 20 FPS when they're actually
Yeah,
sharing
dude.
gameplay.
When they're
So,
showing it, yeah, it's
I
so
mean,
bad.
so if that's actually true, I mean, at least they kind of stayed to the they stayed honest. Actually, it's
I
true.
think it's true because I think of how many times I've like so most of the time Switch is usually connected through Wi-Fi, and
Yeah,
the bandwidth demand of streaming at like 30 plus FPS is crazy on Wi-Fi.
yeah,
It's just not
yeah,
going to be possible.
yeah, yeah. I can imagine it's going to be pretty choppy, but I mean, I think the idea is very I think it's very different for Nintendo, and kind of embracing the more online aspects. Because I remember for the longest time, it's
Yeah,
like
they
you
would
really
they
didn't
were so
have
against it.
you didn't really have
Yeah,
communication outside of just like, oh, let's hop on Discord and play and chat while we play. So it's cool that Nintendo's trying to do their own thing with that. And it seems to be a major focus of the Switch 2. So I think it's pretty cool. They also talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 camera, so you could have a little video going on while you play. So this camera is a USB-C camera. It hooks into the USB-C port on the top of the Switch 2, and it's cool to
pretty
see.
cool.
Kind of they have some green screen effects going on. So people are like, they have the camera pointed at them, and the game plays in the background. It chops out the background and everything. So I'll be curious. This is all stuff. I'm like, I gotta see the real demo of this, because I feel like it's gonna be like it's gonna be interesting to see. I don't know. I will say it's the Mario Party. So they show Mario
That
Party
looks
here.
the
This section looks kind of
coolest
cool. It's
part,
like
man.
so you can
Yeah,
like,
so basically
oh
anybody that's
man,
played Mario Party, you can actually see your small it's almost like a text bubble that comes out, like old school like comics would have text bubbles.
yeah,
It's like that, but in the text bubble is the person's face, and it's like properly cut and like
yeah. Yeah, that
Perfect.
actually
They're obviously
it'd
using
be
a lot
kind of
of AI, and then like this is all green screen automatically
yeah,
with the
exactly.
cameras. So that's really cool.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see how it all works. I think of Mario Party's uh, Jamboree. Is it Jubilee? What's the Mario Party?
Jamboree,
Jamboree.
Jamboree, I think it is.
Um. Yeah.
I
Anyways,
messed it up
just
too, and I own the damn
yeah.
game.
I mean, I don't know. Whatever the Mario Party games, the Nintendo Switch 2 version comes with the camera features and stuff like that. So it'll be cool to see how all that works. But um, I don't know. It's nifty little stuff. I mean, granted, are most gamers going to use the video camera? Like, unless you're playing with family, like, and
Yeah,
you really want to use it, probably not. So I can't say many people would actually end up using it.
very true.
But they did also announce game chat is going to be free. There's going to be like an open access period for the first year, or I guess until into March next year. So people don't need a Nintendo Online subscription to use it. So if you like it, you could try it out essentially and see if it's your thing. Of course, they talk about parental controls, but we ain't got kids over here, so we don't care about parental control.
It's facts.
It's cool to see them. Yeah, they talk
Yeah.
about game share next. I thought game share was cool.
The game share is something I first saw with what's it called? It Takes Two. I don't know if they had it with A Way Out, but It
I'm
Takes
sure
Two
they
they
did,
had
yeah.
it, and it was so cool. It was like one person had to just own the game, and the
Yeah.
other person just had to play with them.
Yeah.
And that was the only rule.
Yeah, same
It's
thing
very,
for
very cool.
Split Fiction. Same thing.
Mhm.
Just one person owns
Yeah,
it and two people
exactly.
play it.
Yeah, you get a friend version, and then you get an actual version.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's cool because the game share stuff. I mean, this works with all Switch consoles too. So the Switch Lite, Switch One, like
Oh, wow, yeah. That's cool.
it'll work across all that, and it's all local. So if everyone has their Switches in the same room, you can, assuming you have a game that's compatible with it, one person owns it and everyone plays it. So I think it's
That's
pretty.
perfect. That's going to
pretty neat.
incentivize so many people to actually get the game or
Yeah,
get the
for
console.
sure. Yeah, and like just play with friends and in person, everything. So yeah, it's
I like that a lot.
yeah, they go into kind of more of the spec stuff, breaking down kind of the specifics of the Switch 2. Bigger screen, same width, so you don't have like a thicker device. They do have more high definition display since there is a bigger display. They're able to pump out, I think it's like 1080 for the actual handheld itself,
Oh, yeah.
and then it's 4K support if you dock it into the Switch 2 dock. And so I saw a lot of people that were hyped about the 4K support because it's like 4K and Nintendo in the same sentence. I never thought we'd see the day.
It's like it was coming always,
Yeah.
but yeah, they take a little bit longer with that
Yeah.
kind of advancement.
Yeah, there's also gonna be support for 120 FPS, which is really nice. It's an LCD HDR display, so not OLED. Unfortunately, I'm sure that's probably hiked the price though if they decided to do a full OLED.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Joy-Con 2s. How do they attach? I thought it was like a clipping system originally when I saw the preview, but it is actually magnets.
Yeah,
You know?
I thought it was a magnet right away. That was one of my theories.
Yeah, sure enough. Yeah, the bumper buttons on the Joy-Con itself are metal, so they just hook into
nice.
They hook into another piece of metal that's in the actual system. So just clip it in, and apparently they're really strong, so you can't like accidentally rip it out easily or anything.
Genius.
So yeah, cool stuff there. It's a little magnet system. Obviously, there's larger joysticks, all that. I didn't see anything about Hall effect, but that's fine. Maybe it's in there, maybe it's not. I don't know, dude. I don't know. But everyone's theory of mouse controls is right, Mike. You can use the Joy-Cons as mice.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. And are they about to show? I think they are. What's coming up is like that wheelchair basketball game, and you could use both Joy-Cons at the same time.
Yeah, talk
Very,
about
very
built-in
cool.
mic. Apparently, the audio speaker's been improved. All that.
Yeah, there were a couple of segments during that demo where the audio sounded perfect. I had my like earbuds in. I'm working, doing the same thing you're doing. I had it propped up, and I just hear it travel from one ear to the other, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing!"
Yeah. But yeah, 2 USB-C ports on this. One on the bottom, one on the top. So it's nice. You can now, if you have the Switch 2 in kind of desktop mode with his stand propped up on the back, you can actually plug the device in and charge it. It is cool to see though. The Switch 2 is going to be shipping 256 gigs of internal space before expansion. So it's cool to see that. I mean, I'm sure you still probably run through that pretty fast. So you're gonna have to buy one of their proprietary SD Express, whatever they're calling it, but if you want to expand it. But yeah, so it's cool to see that. The docking station, they show that off. Again, it says the it offers 4K support. So if you want to play 4K on the TV, talk about the cooling system and all that. It's cooling and whatnot. Talk about yeah. I don't know. That's pretty bad. I think spec wise, that was pretty much about it. So they talk.
Yeah,
about
there wasn't too much going into the specs, really. It's a bigger, better Switch is really what it comes down to. I'm going to be most excited to see what happens to the third party market and see if they can add anything to make it better, or you know how there's always that Joy-Con third party like alternative you can get. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, the virtual reality game they're starting to show off,
dude. I along with most of the people that watch this have a gripe. I wonder if you noticed it, Mike. When they talk about
right?
like at the end, there's kind of an issue with this that I have. At the very end, they talk about the welcome tour, Nintendo Switch 2 welcome tour, and at the bottom, they say it's available on the same day as the Switch 2 launches, in quotes,
as a
paid digital only game. This is showing off what the Switch 2 can do, and it's a paid game.
That's kind of nuts.
That's insane to me. I don't know why this is a paid thing. This seems like something that should ship with your console. So that is confusing to me.
A welcome tour that you have to pay for.
It's this is I don't know, dude. This is the most Apple thing Nintendo can do, I feel like. So
that is honestly one of the biggest Apple things you could possibly do. I guess it just goes into like, I don't know, man, just consumerism, capitalism,
dude, I don't know. Like, that's the biggest complaint. One of the biggest complaints I have. It's like, why is that paid? I don't know. But
that's annoying.
Yeah, moving on, Mike. You talk about cartridges. Switch 2 cartridge. Got that nice little red plastic. Same size red plastic. I like the red plastic. I think it's pretty neat. Got a little red plastic on the cart. Yeah, same size and everything. And then you talk about the micro SD express cards. Express. They gotta slap a little proprietary, like, by the way, it's an express card. You're gonna need this card if you want to use it with the Switch 2. You gotta pay a little extra. So old micro SD cards that you use for your original Switch ain't gonna work. You gotta buy new ones. Sorry.
It is what it is. That probably has to do a lot with just the read and write transfer speed.
Yeah, I'm sure there may be some technological stuff behind it. You can use SID transfer for save data, digital games, and more between your original Switch console and Switch 2. Pro controller. Honestly, it looks nice. It looks like they didn't really do too many updates. Besides, they had the C button for game chat, and they have back buttons, and they have paddles. Essentially,
well, that's always been on the Pro controllers, though.
Was it? I feel like I remember. I feel like I remember there was one that didn't have it, but maybe I'm just tripping.
I don't remember the audio jack, but I also had a wired Switch Pro controller.
Yeah, I got you. So. I got you. Yeah, I think the one that I had, one of the original ones didn't have it, but yeah, interesting stuff. They announced June 5th. June 5th, ladies and gentlemen. Sure, I can get a Switch 2. Yeah, it's funny they didn't mention the price, though, in the actual presentation. Just like,
agreed.
Didn't mention that. What you had talked about.
Well, it's not about the price. It's about what can it do. It's got to get you excited first, and and once you start Googling the price, you're like, you want it.
It's strategic. It's strategic for sure.
Very strategic for sure, man.
Yeah. They talked about some original Switch games that are going to get Switch 2 editions. We talked about Mario Party earlier. That's going to get kind of its own version with extra stuff.
Yeah, Jubilee is one of the biggest ones.
Yeah. There's going to be
expand for.
Yeah, there's going to be mini games that actually utilize the mouse function on the Joy-Cons too. So kind of some extra stuff there.
And obviously. The Switch 2 camera as well.
Yeah.
You get to get in there and like, you know what it reminds me of is the Xbox like
Connect.
Yes.
It's kind of like that,
yeah. You are now the controller, that kind of thing.
Yeah. That's pretty funny, but yeah, it's kind of like that. Which is crazy how the Kinect's had a life outside of gaming. It's really used in robotics and stuff now. It's kind of funny. But yeah, dude, it's you see live reactions. Oh man,
I think that's really cool.
This would be so. I mean, yeah, it's like you're using the person to balance stuff in the game on your head. It's wild. The camera integration is kind of sick. Yeah, it's cool to see.
I can see it being super frustrating though if the internet's just not good.
Yeah,
so I can see be careful.
That. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting to see the mouse capability on I'm curious to see how like Nintendo's going to continue to use that. I know which they talk about later is that Civ 7, Civilization 7 is coming to the Switch 2. and that is going to be
Yeah,
controlled by the Joy-Con mouse function pretty much exclusively. So it's like you just
perfect.
literally use that, and so it's cool. It's like using a mouse on a Switch game. It's wild to think about, but yeah, dude.
It's gonna be so funny to see, dude. Could you imagine using the Joy-Con in a competitive setting? You're doing like esports CS2.
Oh, and Mike,
Valorant.
your favorite dude, Zelda games, but Zelda games getting Nintendo Switch 2 editions.
Yeah, which is kind of a shame. I feel like they're milking the franchise a little bit too much for my take. Like Breath of the Wild is one of the best games I think I've played ever, and I haven't really beaten Tears of the Kingdom, but from what I understand, it's better than Breath of the Wild. It is very kind of lame because they already had collector's edition versions for the Switch OLED that came out for Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and now it's like, okay, we got a Switch 2 version. It's like, guys, really? And then they also, I don't know if you saw, I'm sure we're going to get into it, is the next Zelda game that's going to be coming out.
Oh yeah,
Hyrule Warriors. It's like, guys, come on. Like, you could tell it's in the same exact game engine and world, and it's supposed to be, yeah, it's like, okay, another spin-off. I mean, I'm probably going to be into it for sure. But come on, really? You know?
I don't know, man.
Remake the same game?
All I'm saying is they added Google Maps to Zelda, so there you go. It's its own version of Google Maps now. Which is kind of cool. It's like it actually works with the game in real time. It's kind of nice.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Yeah,
I'm not 100% hate it. It's just still, it's like, I don't know if I need this. It's all about wanting in the end. This is just like a luxury product.
I mean, let's talk about Kirby Forgotten Lands getting its own, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond's getting its own, and it's going to get enhanced kind of performance mode, graphics mode, or quality mode kind of thing. So I think there's like they break it down. I think later on, 4K 60 FPS HDR quality mode, 1080p 120 HDR performance mode. Those obviously bump down in handheld, but
yeah, but still, it's like that's really good, and it's kind of fitting to see that Metroid Prime is going to be the test, like guinea pig, to make everything look really cool, because that's exactly what happened with the GameCube when that first came out.
Yeah,
and that Pokemon Legends game looked pretty good too.
Yeah.
Z Alpha or whatever.
Yeah.
ZA.
If you have the Nintendo Switch version of a game, you can play the Nintendo Switch 2 edition by purchasing an upgrade pack. Yeah, it's still gonna try and get a little bit of money out of you. You know what I'm saying? If you own the original.
Yeah, so I get it. Yeah.
Still
the upgrade pack. How much is the upgrade pack? I'm gonna Google it.
I didn't say.
How much would you pay? I'll tell you how much I would pay.
I mean, I'll give you like 20. You know what I'm saying? I'll hand you a 20.
That's where I'm at.
I'll hand you a 20.
Let's see.
I'll hand you a 20 for it. Anything more than that, I don't know. I'll give you a 20 though. It depends if I really like the game, you know. If I really like the game, then yeah.
Okay, so hold on. Here's what I have according to Gemini. For Nintendo Switch 2 owners who already have The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom on Nintendo Switch, the upgrade pack to the Nintendo Switch 2 edition is free if you have a Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack membership. So what is...
How much is the membership? That's a nice question.
How much is the membership? Wow. It's $10 per person a year.
A year?
A year.
Yearly? It's crazy.
Year.
That's
maybe
nothing.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's like, there's no way, dude. That's like 70 cents a month, bro. There's no shot. With the expansion pack, maybe. It's like,
it's like...
Is that the membership?
What's Nintendo Online again?
Yeah, I don't know how much it is.
How much is Nintendo
Tell me, Gemini.
Online? $4 a month.
That's not bad.
So you're probably looking at like $5 a month to get both.
Yeah, literally. That's actually not that bad. If you're a Nintendo player, then yeah, why not? I mean,
other people are saying it's just like, dude, $10 a year is pretty trivial amount for online access.
Mike, if you ever wanted to play what is this? I forget what this is called. Accessibility
wheelchair basketball?
Yeah, wheelchair. Yeah, wheelchair basketball. Well, you can now play it. The Joy-Cons. You can skate Joy-Cons across the desk like mice to scoot, and then you can lift it up and then like throw your Joy-Con to shoot.
It looks clean too. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it does look pretty cool. Yeah, you can wave to other people and stuff in game. I think it's pretty funny. But passing and stuff, you can kind of do actual motions to all that. That's pretty neat.
I hope it's like super accurate too. Imagine this being an esport; it could be so sick.
Pretty sick esport. Yeah, but it's cool to see that. Yeah, and then they get into
We get
third party
Elden Ring to the
stuff.
Switch too.
Elden
Yeah.
Ring's coming to Switch too.
Are
Yeah.
all those in emulators as well? That's how they usually do it. Did it before?
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, Hades 2 is coming to Switch too. Talked about that. Capcom's bringing some of their stuff to Switch.
Yeah, Capcom's
Street
fighting,
Fighter.
2K. Yeah.
Yeah. I know Borderlands 4 at some point announces they're bringing their game.
That's true.
There. Yeah, Demon Monkey. Yeah, Split Fiction. Joseph Fares comes out himself and he presents that, hey, we're coming to Switch. So
dude, yeah, it looks sick.
Yeah.
Very, very sick.
I want to play football on a Switch, Mike. You ever want to do that? Well, guess what?
Yes, so football's not too bad.
Hogwarts Legacy's coming to Switch. So like popular third-party titles. Tony Hawk, Pro Skater 3 and 4, Switch. Hitman. I mean, there's just so many third-party stuff that they announced. 007, a little 007 project in the works. It's cool to see that. Just a lot of things. Yakuza, so much. A lot of third-party stuff. But yeah, here you go. Here's that Zelda game you're talking about. The Hyrule, whatever. Yeah, it looks like Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah.
It's clearly in the same engine as the same exact character model as the previous Zelda character. So
the story leading into Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, it basically before. Well, honestly, it could be pretty cool to play that and then go play Tears of the Kingdom.
Do a little chronological.
Yeah.
Hyrule Warriors, Age of Imprisonment.
Yeah.
Sweeter. Decent. Oh yeah, and then they talk about Nintendo Switch Online as well as the expansion pack. Kind of what's involved with both those. So, they announced a little something. Oh, my GameCube, where my GameCube boys at? GameCube games coming to the expansion pack, baby. And Nintendo Classics, GameCube. About time. We're gonna be getting Wind Waker, proper emulation.
One of my favorite ever games, dude. Wind Waker.
Oh yeah, Soul Calibur.
Soul Calibur 2.
Oh, dude.
F-Zero. Link in it, obviously. Yep.
Yeah, crazy stuff.
F-Zero's
Play online
so
with
sick.
friends. Oh, dude. Play online, dude. You could do save state. You could save scum. Dude, it's crazy, dude. You can do anything.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, all the stuff that they're taking from like the Dolphin emulator. It looks very similar. So I'm sure that's gonna make things interesting for some people.
Yeah. Dude, you could play Chibi Robo, Super Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, Super Mario Strikers, Pokemon Coliseum, the goats.
Mm-hmm.
The goats.
I wonder if they'll be able to play like Melee and stuff.
Now, see,
there's a new
they're offering
GameCube
Nintendo
controller.
GameCube controller is wireless. Has a C button and everything. I'll be curious to see if something like this bottles the weight of the original GameCube controller, because I love the weight of the original controller. It's like, I just love that weight. This is probably gonna be like light as a feather, like some third party rash. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they add some.
Hey, as long as it's not like a Power A remote, that stuff annoys the heck out of me.
That's what I'm saying, dude. I've gotten a Power A GameCube. That thing was, the GameCube controller was just like whack, bro. Straight up. But yeah, be interesting to see kind of what comes of everything. Talk about Borderlands 4. We talk about 2K coming here. We talk about Civ 7. We talk about all the Cyberpunk coming to Switch. Final Fantasy 7. 2 Point Museum. All these third-party titles. And then From Software announces a game for the Switch that will be coming out. Exciting stuff there. All the From Software people. Praise voice, dude. There's a lot that went into this. They did a little tease. They got Kirby flying on a star at the end of this presentation.
So sick, dude. Kirby on a Star is one of my favorite animations in like all of gaming. So iconic. You know what it actually is similar to? Goku on the Flying Nimbus. Cloud.
I see it. Kirby Air Ride. There you go. Riders. There's multiple.
Riders. We heard about this one. It was in a couple of leaks.
Yeah.
Actually. Air Riders.
Yeah. Sure. And then at the very end, bing bang bam. New Donkey Kong, baby. It's coming. New Donkey Kong. I saw some people trying to trash this model of Donkey Kong. listen, even the original artist came
They were
out and
trying to
said,
trash it.
yeah, they were like, I don't like it. And then one of the original artists was like, listen, people gotta embrace change. You know what I'm saying? You can't just
Yeah,
keep the same stuff. So
no, I think it's really sick.
yeah,
It
I do
just kind
too,
of
man.
shows how ridiculous Donkey Kong is. That's like the whole point of him.
Yeah, I mean, new Donkey Kong game, dude. It's lit. Like, what are we talking about? This is sick. My
I'm
Donkey
into
Kong
it.
Country fans, you know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, dude, 3D Donkey Kong that looks as fluid as something like Super Mario Odyssey or something like that, like Super Mario Galaxy. Like, I'm in. Looks sick.
And yeah, man, it has like classic tropes that you always see in Donkey Kong games.
Yeah, with a
And they
twist,
do
dude.
callbacks to
Dude,
the previous games. Come on, don't
yeah,
hate.
this looks way too good, bro. Sorry, it's way too good. Yeah, dude, I think Donkey. I don't know, man. People are tripping, bro. Like Donkey Kong looks sick with like the frazzled fur, and I don't know, it looks
Yeah,
cool,
I
dude.
think the only people that would be upset is just purists, I guess, of what they think the Donkey Kong franchise should be.
Yeah, man.
But it's like, hey guys, we're entering a new era. It's been a long time since Donkey Kong Country. Okay, but like, come on, just embrace it.
I don't know. Donkey Kong Bonanza game looks fire. What can I say?
It looks very fire.
Um,
It's
July
good to just
17th.
see it.
There you
Yeah,
go.
a Donkey Kong game. I'm into it.
Yeah, dude, it looks really good. Yeah, dude. I mean, they talk about the bundles and what to expect. That's pretty much the bulk of the presentation. Um,
It was a good presentation.
yeah, I think overall I enjoyed it. Um, yeah, it was cool just to hear about the console, see some new games, and see Donkey Kong come back, kind of what that's all about. I liked it. I liked it. Didn't show any prices, but that's their strategy. So
Yeah, it's
not,
100% the strategy, dude.
yeah, not too mad about it personally, but yeah, well, it is what it is, Mike. It is what it is. Um,
It is what it
we
is.
have a couple more kind of smaller articles to run through real quick. We'll get through some. We have a article comparing the Switch to the Steam Deck a little bit, to kind of see how they stack, how
Oh yeah.
Nintendo's kind of stuff stacks. But we can get into some Nintendo Switch 2, DLSS, or real
Oh yeah.
time ray tracing. So
I'll get ahead and start yapping about it from Jay Peters over at The Verge. Um, but before we go any further, we are past like the hour mark. So for those of you that stuck around, we appreciate you. But if you can't and you haven't you don't have time for anymore, always come back. We have timestamps in the description below. Just wanted to give that quick little shout out and links in the description. So wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching, you can always go there and check it out. Just FYI. But we're gonna continue on. Like Kyle just said, we have two main articles left, and they're both from The Verge. Jay Peters. So he wrote an article called "Nvidia confirms the Nintendo Switch 2 has DLSS and real-time ray tracing." Nintendo hasn't revealed the full Switch 2 specs, but Nvidia is providing a few more details about the power of the new console. Scrolling a little bit further down, we got a short little article here. Nintendo Switch 2 tech specs yesterday vaguely said that the console is powered by a custom processor made by Nvidia, but in a new blog post, Nvidia has shared a little more detail about how it's powering the device. Nvidia says that its chip enables DLSS support on the Nintendo Switch 2, allowing the console to upscale games and provide better performance, much like how DLSS powers Nvidia desktops and laptop GPUs. Nvidia doesn't mention which version of DLSS will be supported on the Nintendo Switch, nor whether there will be any frame generation capabilities. The Nvidia GPU inside the Nintendo Switch 2 also has dedicated RT cores and Tensor cores, according to Nvidia. These RT cores will deliver real-time ray tracing on the Switch 2 with the promise of lifelike lighting, reflections, and shadows for more immersive worlds. The Tensor cores will, and in quotes, enable AI-powered face tracking and background removal and video chat use cases, enhancing social gaming and streaming. I guess the tensor cores goes into like that NVIDIA RTX that I was mentioning,
yeah, I assume so.
and yeah, because I can also use my NVIDIA GPU for certain features that are on my AverMedia webcam, the 4K, and I can like
Okay.
do
Okay.
background removal and stuff. So I think they're trying to tie into all of that.
Yeah.
And my hardware is like 5 years old now, so if that existed 5 years
Oh.
ago and they're releasing it now, it's like okay, it's probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
So Nvidia also says that the console has 10x the graphics performance of the Nintendo Switch, which is a performance claim that's almost certainly related to the use of DLSS. The Switch 2's variable refresh rate in handheld mode is also powered by Nvidia G-Sync technology. Nintendo, from the outset of working on the Switch 2, wanted to improve its power over the original Switch, according to an Ask the Developer interview published yesterday. So the company says that its improved performance enables things like letting you destroy anything you want in Donkey Kong Bonanza without restrictions and the seamlessly connected courses in Mario Kart World. And then again, Switch 2 launches $450 in the USA, probably like all Western media, and then cheaper in Japan for a Japanese retail version.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the thing that kind of blew my mind in terms of just NVIDIA in general is I thought AMD was made in everything. They use AMD chips in all modern Xbox and PlayStations. And I did a quick Google check. From what I've seen, is that only the Switch uses NVIDIA for their processors, and yeah, they're using the Switch 2, and also the original Xbox and the what's it called? The PlayStation 3 or 4? I think it's 3.
I think you said 3.
Was yeah, PlayStation 3 was using NVIDIA processors. I think that's kind of interesting
Yeah.
when
It's
everything else
yeah.
seems to be going AMD route in the
Yeah.
commercial
That's really
power.
wild, yeah. Like AMD has such a large share in the console space, so yeah, it
They
is.
really, really do.
When
Yeah.
you hear Nvidia's in a console, it is definitely like, whoa, okay, like a little
Yeah.
premium here. Like, okay, um,
Let's go.
so yeah, do Switch 2 doing it right? Yeah, it's just cool to hear about Nvidia and how, like we saw from the trailer, they're using the RT cores and Tensor cores to give a little kind of RTX voice or kind of green screening stuff like that. So exciting stuff. See Nvidia partnership with Nintendo. Um, yeah, I'll be curious to see the game performances and stuff in handheld mode. When we get a little digital foundry in there, whenever June rolls around, July. So see how this stuff stacks up. But very cool stuff.
Interesting though. I think it's pretty cool. We hopefully will receive more information about the official specs and then
Yeah,
stress testing and all that other stuff.
yeah,
But before we even yap about that, the rumor mill, you got one more article for us where it compares the Steam Deck.
yeah.
So
We got
what you
one more.
got?
Got one more.
Uno
Oh,
mas.
got a little link to it, so we'll just get into it. Nintendo Switch 2, how does it stack up with the Steam Deck? Cameron Faulkner over at The Verge commented on this. So they operate on different philosophies, yet there overlap in their target audiences. Biggest threat to the Steam Deck in 2025 won't be the arrival of the other Windows-based handheld gaming PCs. Instead, it'll likely be Nintendo Switch 2, which arrives on June 5th for $450, smack dab between the cost of the $400 Steam Deck LCD and the $550 Steam Deck OLED. Ironically, the Steam Deck is also the Switch 2's biggest threat. While Nintendo's new console may have Valve's beat on screen resolution, refresh rate, and custom NVIDIA processor capable of DLSS and ray tracing, Steam trumps and in value, particularly with game prices. I get it. They're totally different devices. So even though comparing Nintendo and Valve's hardware and software philosophies is an apples versus oranges exercise, the two devices and companies are more aligned than you might think. And that's especially true when consumers, whether because of tariffs or other economic reasons, need to choose between one or the other. You've come to the right place, as we'll break down all the specs worth caring about to show how they stack up. Starting with pricing and availability, as mentioned, the Switch 2 and Steam Deck have somewhat similar prices. Switch 2 will launch at $450 to start. There will be a $500 bundle available for limited time that includes Mario Kart World. Pre-orders go live on Wednesday, April 9th for the console, its accessories, and launch titles, which we did not mention, but I did see there was actually some pre-order incentives, and the way they're trying to prevent scalpers is they're prioritizing Nintendo Switch owners that have an online membership and actually have a certain amount of game time on their Switch. So it's
Interesting.
It's a little bit tactic they're trying to do to combat scalpers. So they're targeting that audience first, the actual people that are the active Switch users. So we'll see how that goes, but very interesting. Valve Steam Decks doesn't come with various game bundles, although there are two models to choose from: the $400 LCD version and the $550 Steam Deck OLED version. Several specs as well as storage amounts differentiate the two. Vergeson Hollister has a review of the Steam Deck OLED that neatly sums up their differences, and the US Steam Deck is only available through Steam, Valve's online game storefront. Internationally, it's available through various stores. Display technology. This is where things get really interesting. The Switch 2 took many by surprise by featuring a 7.9-inch 1080p LCD screen with 120 Hz refresh rate. Not only that, it supports VRR and HDR10 compared to the launch of Switch and Switch Lite, both of which had 720p LCDs of varying sizes. It's a big difference in terms of added size, features, more clarity, and smoothness in how games appear on screen. The same could be said for Switch 2 screen improvements over the Steam Deck LCD, which has a 7-inch 60Hz LCD touchscreen with chunky bezels without VRR or HDR support. The Switch OLED's 7-inch 720 OLED screen may be better than the Switch 2 screen in terms of contrast and viewing angles, but the Switch 2's is faster and better in every other metric. Switch 2 meets its match in the Steam Deck OLED. Many hoped the Nintendo would come out with gates with an OLED display, but this still makes Valve's 550 handheld special. The Steam Deck OLED is a smaller 8800p touchscreen with a Switch 2 at 6.4 inches, but without the chunky bezels of the Deck LCD, but adds a 90 Hz refresh rate and HDR to the mix. It's a gorgeous screen with stellar viewing angles and brilliant color reproduction, making 800p game somehow look higher resolution. Some may prefer the high refresh rate and VRR in the Switch 2, which will allow the screen to quickly adapt to the fluctuating frame rate without tearing. The VRR difference is something you have to experience yourself, and it's great to have it in the Switch 2 as not many handhelds support it, save for the Lenovo Legion Go S and select others. VRR is something I never really knew about, but yeah, it's it's a game changer. If you're
really
playing
is,
a game that fluctuates a lot, because it makes it look way less bad. Performance and battery life. There is sure to be more to come in terms of comparing performance between the Switch 2 and the Steam Deck. Hands-on time with the Switch 2 has been limited to a few games coming at launch, so you should expect more of how games available for both compare in terms of visuals and frame rate. We can make some comparisons based on specs. Both the Steam Deck models use the custom AMD APU that plays a swath of PC games relatively smoothly at good to great visual quality and surprisingly good battery life. Not every game can take full advantage of the Steam Deck's OLED 90Hz refresh rate, but that's not a claim Valve makes. Some AMD's FSR graphical upscaling technology is available in select games to reduce the render resolution of the image and upscaling it using AI. In many cases, it makes supporting games run better on Steam Deck, but with a major hit to visual quality. Yeah, tend to see that in these AI upscalers, but this is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, I think Nintendo's Switch 2 is more of a spec powerhouse than anyone expected. It uses a custom Nvidia processor, which we just discussed. Not too many details have been made public about it. Nintendo is publicly targeting 120 frames per second in some games in handheld mode with a 60 FPS cap at 4K when docked, indicating that there's quite a bit of potential in the Switch 2. Nintendo Switch 2 hardware engineers claim the console utilizes DLSS ray tracing, which we had just discussed. Regarding battery life, the Steam Deck has a Switch 2 beat, though both handhelds, it's important to note that battery longevity varies widely depending on the games you play. Balatro, for instance, is less taxing on hardware than Cyberpunk 2077. The Switch 2 has an expected battery life of around 2 and 6.5 hours. Valve's Steam Deck LCD, which is a 40 watt-hour battery, can last anywhere from 2 and 8 hours, while the Steam Deck OLED, thanks to its more efficient display and jump from 40 to 50 watt-hours, lasts between 3 to 12 hours. Let's think about these handhelds, man. They vary widely. They always give a wide range.
That's, yeah.
So,
they're it'll be 2 or 6. What?
Yeah, depending on what you
2
play.
or 8. It's 6 hour time, 6 hour difference, man.
It'll take 2 to 8 weeks. I'm what? Okay.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, storage dock and more. By default, Switch 2 contains 256 gigs of speedy USF storage that presumably cannot be upgraded by the end user. However, it can be expanded upon with micro SD cards, but not just any will do. It's one of the first devices to support micro SD Express, which are classified as PCIe 3.0 NVMe SSDs. Oh, so that's why it's Express. Okay, I didn't understand why it was called that. That makes sense. So it's essentially a NVMe. So there you go. This is tiny than other micro SD cards. The console supports up to 2 terabytes of capacities, though we've only seen up to 1 terabyte models hit shelf so far. The Steam Deck offers more versatility. For one, all models come with M.2 2230 size SSDs that can be upgraded by opening the system. Doing so doesn't avoid the warranty, but you'll want to be careful. Once inside, you can replace the SSD with something bigger. It's unclear whether the Steam Deck's built-in SSD is faster or on par with Switch 2's internal storage. If you want to supplement the SSD with more user-friendly expandable storage, each deck also supports UHS-1 microSD cards. Those are slower than the Switch 2's microSD Express cards, but they do the trick. Both handhelds can be used as hybrids, either in handheld mode or docked to a TV. Speaking with a handheld use case first, Switch 2 includes a versatile kickstand, while the Steam Deck does not. Placing it either on a dock grants you more ports to connect to the console. Switch 2 dock, which comes with each console, includes HDMI port, USB-C for power, plus an Ethernet port for wired internet. Steam Deck docking station is separately a $80 accessory that includes more ports such as HDMI DisplayPort, 3 USB-A ports, Ethernet, and a USB-C port for power. The Steam Deck and Nintendo Switch 2 have USB-C ports that send video out to your display. However, only the Switch 2 features a second USB-C port located on its top, which can be used to plug in peripherals such as a camera for game chat or numerous other accessories to be released in the future. Switch 2's secondary USB-C port doesn't support video out. In the case of the Switch 2, its dock unlocks more power capabilities, whereas the Steam Deck's dock doesn't increase its power. Yeah, this is something interesting too. The dock does a lot for the Switch. It always has.
No.
So
Honestly, I think the docks are probably some of the coolest things that I've seen in terms of gaming. I think the first time I ever saw a docking system that I was really impressed by was like the Lenovo computer laptop dock.
yeah.
I thought that was really cool. And see something like that being implemented into gaming is a welcome sight, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So they talk about game software. Steam Deck uses Steam Library at your fingertips to be able to play most of them in the Steam Deck. But how each game performs, including whether you can launch it at all due to anti-cheat or other incompatibility reasons, varies depending on the game. Valve attempts to make it easy to know whether a game will work well on Steam Deck. If it's verified, that means you'll probably have a good experience. If it's playable, there might be some controller-based difficulties that might negatively impact or otherwise a good experience. Unsupported games are simply that. They either won't work if you boot them, or Valve hasn't tested and doesn't know what kind of time you're in for. One defining feature Steam is that store hosts any sales. Steam games can be legally acquired through third-party sites at big discounts. Games are often significantly more affordable by comparison to Switch and other game consoles. I mean, yeah. That's the thing. The Switch is going to get annihilated by Steam Deck's ability to just get cheaper games. But Switch also has exclusive games that you can only get on there. So that's how they win.
That's how they win. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So yeah, go on to talk about the Switch 2. I mean, obviously, like we discussed earlier, many exclusive titles coming to that console. So that's where you're going to get your value, and you're not going to have nearly as big of a library as you would on a Steam Deck. But you're going to have those sweet Donkey Kong games and all that. So
yeah, that's the main thing. It's like you're going for the IPs that are really well known in the Nintendo Switch, well, the Nintendo ecosystem.
Yeah,
just what it is.
Sure is. And at the end of the article, there's a little chart that breaks down a comparison and specs between the Switch 2 and both of the Steam Deck LCD and OLED offerings. Kind of see at a high level view of what each is. So yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing in all this for me is just the difference in library. I think that's what it comes down to. I mean, you pretty much Steam Deck is like, I don't know, it's essentially like, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's PC, but I mean, it essentially is to a certain extent in terms of what you can play, all that, and if you're in that Steam ecosystem, if you already have a PC, it's easy enough to just fire up the deck and you're like already in your Steam account playing games, and it's way cheaper in that way. So
yeah, you're right. They have it. That's a really good point. I think though, when it comes to more casual audiences and more like throwback nostalgic purposes, Nintendo's the way to go.
yeah,
I really like that feature of the webcam, implementing it into the game itself. I don't think I've actually seen a game that has done that before.
yeah, or at least
Where
it's
you
done
do
it
like
well.
yeah, done it well.
Like,
Yeah,
something like that.
but
Connect maybe tried it, but I don't know, very good.
yeah, I've always said that Nintendo Switch for me, or Nintendo in general, the fact that they always are harping on how they have physical copies of games, that was the main point for me almost always. So the fact that they're going away from physical games and going more digital, for the sake of money, it's like, nah, I don't know I'm into this anymore. Because if
Yeah,
you get to that level, I think I'll just pick up a Steam Deck. And
yeah.
there are ways to get Nintendo games on a Steam Deck. I don't want to say
I mean, yeah.
how, but
I mean, yeah.
it's the internet.
Right.
You can do
Right.
you just Google it. You can find things. It's illegal. You'll get cooked if
It's
you get caught.
probably not illegal, but yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, dude. I mean, I think in terms of design, especially against the original Steam Deck, I don't know, I like to look at the Switch. I mean, they both are nice. I think the Steam Deck is definitely like if you have bigger hands, it's probably better because it's just like a bigger, bulkier device. But
Agreed. Yeah.
yeah, the layout of the buttons is probably a little more comfortable. So I don't know. I think Steam Deck probably in terms of layout for me is probably something I would enjoy more. Um, but yeah, they both look nice. So I'll be curious to see. I'd be curious to try a Switch 2 at some point. If I show up at a Walmart, it's there to at least like grab, feel, sort of like see what it's like. I don't know.
I think what I'll do is just probably watch a whole bunch of different like a whole bunch of different streams of people using it and testing it out. I I really want to see how that goes because there are a whole bunch of people that they're into the Switch and they're into the like tech YouTubers, I should say. They have the Switch, they have the Steam Deck, and they usually just choose the Switch. Maybe it's because they're kind of boomers, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
maybe. Yeah, I don't know, man. No. But yeah, dude. Mike, listen,
Mhm.
that's Switch 2, dude. That was the Switch 2.
We're, we're in the
Crazy,
money.
man.
It's
It's
finally
crazy,
here.
man.
It's
Pricey.
fine. Sorry,
This year.
I'm so congested. I'm struggling, but it is incredibly pricey. It is comparative to other handhelds. It has plenty of features that are very interesting. The storage isn't so good, but the games aren't as demanding for storage.
Yeah.
It's really going to come down to what you want to use it for. I think it's really it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, a lot of people are going to be buying this console for sure. Every time
Yes.
Nintendo drops a new console, dude, it's hotcakes, man.
Oh yeah.
So it's
It's
definitely going to sell.
hotcakes.
It's definitely going to sell. I'd be curious to see how they kind of respond to demand and stuff like that. So that's probably what I'm looking forward to the most in terms of from a news standpoint. Is how they adjust to the demand. But 'cause I have a feeling it's going to be in demand. So I
Yeah,
don't know, man.
I'm
Sounds
really
nice.
much looking forward to the performance tests, the functionality of everything that they've shown, and really it's going to come down to games. That's really all that matters in the end. You better have good games if you're going to be charging more.
Yeah,
But
yeah, no
comparatively,
kidding.
it's like even then, I'm looking at the prices. $400 for the Switch, the Steam Deck LCD, and then the Switch 2 is 450, and you could basically get all the upgrades that you have from the previous versions of the Switch games. The online capabilities is a little bit cheaper. The games cost more, but yeah, it's weird.
Yeah,
It's weird. I don't know.
it's weird
It's
for
cool
sure.
though.
Weird.
I'm finally glad we get to see it. You know.
Yeah, yeah, it was nice, right? It's finally getting to see. Yeah, because when it was announced like a couple months ago, it's like it seemed like April was like I was like, man, I gotta wait 2 months, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're here. So see it.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, fascinating stuff. Can't wait to see the tests and everything. So excited to see it all,
Yes, sir.
man.
Finally, we have wired connectivity though. For so long as we're docked, that's the key for me, man.
Yeah, that's a
Having
good
the
point.
docks on my desk and there's no Ethernet port, I'm just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my
Just freaking
god.
out, like what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool though. I like there's a lot of like cool features and there's expansion that gives you up to 2 terabytes of storage. It's like, dude, there's I'm pleasantly surprised with the capabilities. So yeah.
Word,
Shall we
man.
let the
Oh,
people go,
word.
man?
Yeah, we should,
He said
dude.
word.
Hour and a half, man. Hour and a
Oh
half.
man. Hour and a
Hour and a
half long
half.
episode.
Crazy.
Yeah, we made up for last week. One episode, 1 hour
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Next week we'll probably do I think you and I should probably just do if there's not a busy week, because there's a lot of games coming out in the month of April. Like a lot.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll talk about that next episode so you can be excited to hold you over going into like June, July when the Switch comes out and you can
True.
get your hands on it. But without further ado, if you guys ever want to check out any of the articles we covered, you want to see where they are from, we have links in the description below. We also have timestamps in every single article. You check those out. We also have like social medias if you want to show us some love. And I think that's all I got. Do you have anything to add, Kyle?
I don't know, man. Get excited for the Switch, I guess.
Man, get excited, man.
And, you know,
Get excited.
love the pricing.
All right, I'm gonna go take a Sudafed.
Yeah.
Let's let the people go.
You need it. Yeah.
We appreciate you for tuning in. I'm Michael Anthony. That's Kyle Heath. This has been M2 Podcast, and this has been like your gaming industry related news weekend review. Right? Review? Cover? Whatever. It doesn't matter. See you later. Keep gaming. Peace out. Have a good one.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Switch.